Shouts out to the Conscious Approach community. Thank you for tuning in. JV Wins Dogon SS. We are back once again on this glorious March the 26th, 2024. Here to kick it in your ear with some more logical content. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to everybody who's been joining, hitting the subscribe button. It's been a great last couple of weeks on the channel. Been interesting to read through some of the comments and gauge on the reception of some of the topics that we've been doing. So whether you agree or disagree, we just are appreciative of the engagement nonetheless. So if you're new to what we do over here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man, because we do this every week, every day. And if you are already a member, buckle up because it's going to be another exciting addition to the fabled channel library. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're going to kick things off talking about Andre 3000, who is almost a friend of the channel. We've talked about Three Stacks here a couple of times. I'm not sure that we've talked about him enough for him to qualify as a friend of the channel, but he is getting there. But Andre 3000 made some interesting comments during a recent live performance in which he was elaborating on his decision to transition from making rap music to being like a flautist. And he basically was like sort of telling the audience that, hey, man, this wasn't planned. This kind of thing just sort of happened naturally. It's not like I was sitting around thinking to myself, oh, I need to become a flautist. He suggests that it kind of happened naturally. So we've touched on Andre 3000's musical transition before. So this isn't necessarily uncovered ground here on the channel, but these are interesting comments nonetheless. So we figured we'd use it as a source of content for our stream today. So this article from Hot New Hip Hop says Andre 3000 reveals that his shift to ambient jazz was unplanned. Last year, Andre 3000 released his long-awaited debut solo album, New Blue Sun. The project surprised and divided much of his fan base as it saw him shifting his style away from rap entirely into ambient jazz music, which prominently featured him playing the flute. Many fans praised his willingness to step so far outside of his comfort zone and try a new style, while others were disappointed that they waited so long specifically for a new rap album from 3K. Now, during a recent performance, he gave even more insight into how he arrived at the shift in style. A video captured by a fan depicts his discussion of the process. And I'm not going to read the quote because I'm going to go ahead and play this little Instagram reel of him explaining it. And so earlier this month, Andre 3000 reunited with his former Outkast partner, Big Boy. Unsurprisingly, Big Boy has some jokes to crack about the new artist direction Andre has been on, but it was obviously all in good faith. Andre also revealed in an interview that Big Boy shared his reaction to New Blue Sun after hearing it. He expressed pride in his fellow rap legend's commitment to shifting his aesthetic. So here is that Instagram video, that reel of Andre 3000 getting into why how he came to switching up his style and transitioning from the rap lyrics to the flute.
How you just gonna be like rapping and then just gonna get on stage playing fucking flutes? Like I didn't plan to be the flute nigga. I didn't plan to be that, you know? It's just kind of like, it happened. When I started rapping, like, I didn't know, you know, what it would be. You know, it's me and Big Boy at the crib watching rap videos. We were like, let's try it. Like, I know we have plans, and I know we go to school, we have intentions, we plan for things, but we all freestyling. We all making this shit up as we go along. You know, we have intentions, you know, but we don't really know.
All right, there you go. So shouts out to Andre 3000 for, at least at this point, clearly not having a no phone rule at his shows.
Hmm.
Uh, that's pretty much a standard issue policy at pretty much any live comedy show. And I do know some artists, musicians do the same thing. But be that as it may, what did you think about that? Do you believe him? You think it was all natural? He didn't really see it coming, or do you think that there's more to it than that?
Uh, I can see that vision. I can understand why he's saying that. So I concur with that, especially as somebody that fashions themselves as an artist. Um, I really, whenever inspiration comes, it comes in whatever form it comes in. It came in that form. So if you try to, force a square peg in a round hole when it comes to your artistry, it's not going to come out as good, because the best art, in my opinion, comes from a sense of authenticity. So if he was trying to force it, it wasn't going to sound good. It wasn't going to be up to his level of because check me out. Because if an artist has like a bar to where they say, hey, it's going to be a classic. This is what I think a classic is going to be, and that's rated a 10. But if their level of inspiration is at a 7, they're capping off at 7. They can hear it themselves that there's 3 more notches to this, and then so will the fans. So instead of forcing it, I agree with him. Just go with the flow. Yeah, I can feel him as well. Like, hey man, I didn't want to be the flute guy. I mean, if anything, I would have been playing the electric guitar. But inspiration came as it came, and I picked this up. So I can dig it. Artists, they can always evolve, and they can always pick up a new thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts something different when he's in his 60s. You know. So what are your thoughts on 3K saying that it was just inspiration? He didn't plan this. You buying that?
I believe him halfway.
Mm,
So here's my thing. I believe that he knew that there was going to be a transition if he were to continue making music,
hmm.
right? So that's what I think he knew.
Okay.
But what I don't think he knew is that it was going to be playing the flute, right? So I don't think that the transition that he knew was inevitable was that of ambient jazz playing the flute. But the reason why I say I halfway believe him
Hmm.
is because I think he at least knew to a certain extent that his future in music was not going to be rap. He knew that much. He just didn't know he didn't know what it was going to be next. And the reason why I say that is because I personally believe, and we've touched on this before, I believe that as he matured as an artist and obviously as he got older, he looked at the landscape of rap music and hip hop culture and
Hmm.
he felt alienated by it. And he felt as though there was no place for him in the ecosystem of rap and hip hop because the kind of music that gets popularized is not the kind of music he wants to make. So he saw the writing on the wall and realized there's not necessarily a place for me here. So if I retire and never make music again, so be it. But if I do make music again, it's not going to be in this lane because that's not who I am. And I don't make music like that. At least I don't anymore. And really, he never did. If you if you are into this genre and you pay attention to the music, again, emphasis on the word popularize, because of course if you're a hardcore indie fan,
Hmm.
you probably listen to some artist out there who doesn't make music that largely gets mainstream. But if you just are a general consumer of the music, then you are well aware, or maybe you're not, that the kind of music in this genre that gets mainstream from a popularized standpoint tends to entail a singularity with respect to its content. Anybody with any modicum of an observance within them
Hmm.
can see that there is a type of content that is largely mainstream and popularized via whatever mechanism that popularization is coming from. And if that isn't aligned with the kind of music you want to make or the kind of music that you want to consume, you either have to force yourself to conform to it or find another outlet. So I think he surveyed the landscape and realized I'm not going to conform because that's not what I'm about. So either I am going to bow out gracefully and retire into the ether, never to be heard from again, which I think is the trek that he was on. And somewhere along the way, he got hit with some kind of inspiration to do this because he's always been an eclectic individualist. And he's probably been somebody who does this on the side. Like he's probably always played the flute for all we know. But you know, he was always also a hip hop head. But once he realized that there's no longer a place for me in this landscape, it was a decision to either conform, sort of allow himself to just sort of bow out gracefully, never to be heard from again, at least musically, or if he just so happens to get hit with some kind of an inspiration in terms of being able to make a musical transition that is indeed authentic and not hackneyed and forced, then he'd be able to explore those avenues as well. So, from my standpoint, I kind of think he's half right in that he knew that there was going to be a transition, but he didn't know what that transition was. But at the end of the day, he at least surveyed the landscape of rap and hip hop and realized that there's no longer a place for him in it. And unlike some of his contemporaries who know that this isn't really what they're about, but choose to stay in it for the purposes of continuing to, I don't know what the reason for it is. Maybe they feel as though they owe the music an obligation to continue to make stuff, and so they conform and continue to try and fit square pegs into round holes. But for him, he decided that's not necessarily for me. And I'm either going to no longer make music ever again, or I'm going to make a transition into something else. At the end of the day, I believe he is not a conformist, which is the key to all this. And I brought this guy up before. You look at somebody like Nas. Nas, in his advanced age, has found a way, despite what rap has transitioned to curate his sound in a way that even in 2024, despite how long he's been in the game, he can continue to make music that sounds good, that doesn't necessarily sound outdated, but he's not conforming to the machine of modern day mainstream popularized rap. And of course, it helps that he can collaborate with an individual like Hit Boy, and they sort of synergize in a way that makes it a perfect union. So Nas can continue to make the kind of raps he wants to make, and he can sound relevant because he's backed by somebody like Hit Boy, who is equally gifted in his own right when it comes to production. So Nas was fortunate enough to find himself in a position where he can extend the life of his music based upon those parameters. Not every artist is so lucky. But I think for Three Stacks, somebody who I would say is much more indie than Nas, he was just like, hey, there's not really a place for me. So if I can't transition, then I'll just bow out gracefully. Luckily for us, he was able to be struck with that inspiration and transition. And it just so happened to be a flute. So, or it just so happened to be him being a flautist. So from my standpoint, I say, I think he's halfway telling the truth. Not that I'm criticizing him because I get where he's coming from, but I think he knew that he was going to move on to something else and he just didn't know what it was. And it wasn't a situation where he was just sitting around aimless, not knowing what's going on, and then suddenly lightning struck and it's like, boom, I'm going to be a flautist. So for me, he was half right. But like I said, for us as fans, luckily he was struck with that inspiration.
Yeah, I can see that angle. Because, well, I mean, in the back of everyone's mind, they already know. It's like an old job you used to have, and you knew you didn't want to be around. You didn't know what your new job was going to be, but you knew you wanted to get out of there. So yeah, I mean, I can understand that premise, and I think more or less what he was getting at was that that latter portion of the thought process of, what would it be? How would I contribute to music? I don't take Andre for a person that does anything by accident or does anything by happenstance or says anything by accident or happenstance. And I think when he was up there explaining himself, he was A, explaining himself, but also B, sharing a lesson, I believe. Um, and that's why I felt the first time around when I even heard that he was even doing this, I felt as though that this whole thing is a way of showing people another way. And so all of it is a lesson. And so if you imagine like a path of a whole bunch of people walking down the same path, and he literally ventured off, and
Yeah.
everything he's saying is like surrounding that. Hey, this is why I ventured out here. It's not that bad. I know you want to do it, and and it's okay. And yeah, I love every second of that. So yeah, man. And I can also tell by listening to his lyrics in the past, man, that this guy has a lot of stuff on his heart that he felt as though that music was his way of conveying that message. And not in the same on the same tier of a Bob Marley or something like that, but a hip hop's version of someone who is trying to lead people another way the entire time. So I take that this this little, I guess, excerpt from his concert is the same. Now my only critique of this is now as a flautist, all right, okay, that's cool. But the strobe lights, I'm not really like, come on, man. Like I felt like the stage should be a little bit more earthy, similar to like a play, where if somebody's frolicking through dandelions. Not like badass strobe lights because they don't really mix. You know what I'm saying? I guess it's like a trippy vibe, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
last thing I'll say is that a couple days ago, man, I seen the video on TikTok where this guy trap violinist or something like that, and the guy was going crazy with the violin. And they had other people like playing like bass or something else in the back, and they were like making it was like a song, and the way that he was playing the violin was similar to somebody rapping, and the flows of the rap, which adds a different type of melody to violin hearing. It's not
Yeah.
it's and it's like, oh shit, I like that. And then and so why not have our people venture off. Trap is just a catchy
It's the hook.
buzzword. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
a buzzword, but it's not necessarily what they're doing. And so I dig that. So if our people can get into that stuff, man, it pulls a certain thing out of us when you listen to that kind of tunes versus shoot 'em up, bang bang. So yeah, I'm all behind this. I'm the people, they want more.
Yeah.
So they go one another. Or where's the second album? It's like, damn, now I created a monster. Now I gotta come
Yeah.
out with a second flute. Yeah, you can't rush this man. So let him do his thing, get in his incubation chamber. And if he comes out 10 more years later, I think I'll be ready and happy for it. So yeah, shouts
Yeah.
out
I
to Stacks.
Yeah, shouts out to Three Stacks for real. Yeah, another example of that is trap choir. Like there's a trap. They call themselves trap choir,
Mm.
but they're an orchestrated choir. But obviously, to get you in, they're gonna throw the word trap in there so that they can sort of lure in that hip hop base because you need the audience. So we the trap choir, even though as an orchestrated choir, they can lend their abilities to any genre of music as if they're a legitimate choir, but they're just called trap choir because if rappers want that kind of sound, they can call them too and all of that kind of stuff. So it's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. If there's one thing that we need to heed from the moves that Andre 3000 makes, it's the importance of nonconformity. I think one of the restraints that we willfully adhere to that sort of keeps our community constrained and confined to various boxes, which makes it easier for us to be controlled and to have our behavior dictated, is conformity. Conformity through music and entertainment and various other forms of, as you like to call it, mind control. And I think the second that more of us decide to venture outside of those boxes, and become nonconformists despite what others around you might be telling you you should be doing or listening to or consuming. It makes it more difficult for us to control, and it makes it easier for us to venture into new avenues, of things that can just basically just enhance the quality of your life. I think the more likely you are to be a nonconformist, the more likely you are to do a lot of the stuff that I preach about here on this channel. Be it getting into, you know, entrepreneurship, STEM applications, other forms of music. The point is, being a nonconformist to me is a very valuable trait to have as an individual, regardless of the community that you come from. And it makes it much more difficult to dictate your behavior and try to predict and control what you do and don't do when you are at your core a nonconformist. And so, like Andre 3000 being a nonconformist, to me, he's clearly a nonconformist. I mean, he was a nonconformist to me even when he was still rapping. Because when
Right.
he was rapping about stuff that no other rapper was rapping about. I
Right.
mean, he'll get on songs with Rick Ross and he's rapping about dolphins. Like
Right.
nobody does that, he got on he was on, what's the name of that, on Rick Ross, 16, on the God Forgives I Don't album.
Mm.
He was trippy with his verse, talking about dolphins and outer space. So even when he was a rapper, he was a nonconformist to me.
Mhm.
But now he's truly ventured into nonconformity via what he's doing with his current brand of music. And I praise him for it, not because I'm going to sit here and proclaim to be able to listen to the album front to back, but because of what it represents to me, which is adherence to nonconformity, which I think is important for any individual, no matter what community that you come from. And they like to box us in, man. They want to predict our movements, predict our behavior, predict our decisions based on the fact that we want to listen to rap all day, and based on the fact that we want to listen to murder, death, kill all the time, or watch these various kinds of TV shows and stream this and play this kind of video game. So when you can bracket yourself out of that and make yourself more difficult to control, you make yourself more of more of a threat to the status quo, and more of an individual who's able to procure the things that can remove you from ecosystems that can otherwise victimize you. So that's why I like what he's doing, him and anybody else who's on that wavelength. I'm a fan of it all day.
Yeah, and there's a difference between, and I know but I'm just saying, just in general, there's a difference between being a nonconformist and just a contrarian
Being a
person.
contrarian on purpose, right?
And one
Yeah,
thing about contrarian people, they're more aggravating than the conformists.
they are.
Like, look, bro, you're like the reverse NPC. You're aggravating the shit out of me right now. Just have a real own thought. Sometimes it's okay to agree with the masses, because sometimes the masses make sense. Wash your hands after you finish taking a shit.
Yeah.
No, not me. Excuse me, bro. Like, you're not gonna wash your hands? So that's that guy. So that guy can go somewhere with his life. But but having your own thought process, filtering things out, accepting things that make sense, rejecting the stuff that don't. And I agree with that, man. And I feel like the world needs more of it. And I didn't look at it that way, but I agree. I feel like that's a good way of encapsulating what he's got going on right now, is being a nonconformist, but in a sensible way.
Right. And yes, authentically. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I'm with him. So shouts out 3 Stacks, man. I still listen to it, when I'm working, and the 9 to 5 grind has me frustrated. One of my outlets is Andre 3 that is 3 Stacks New Blue Sun, along with various other forms of music like that just kind of mellow out my thought process. So I'm with it all day. But even if sonically it's not for you, the symbolism behind it, to me, in my opinion, is one that preaches nonconformity, which I think is a very important quality. So shouts out to 3 Stacks. Much respect, man. Love over here on this side, man. Keep doing your thing, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like and subscribe too, bro, because I know you watching, bro. Come on, man. Stop playing.
Yeah. Major look.